who's your favorite character in Genshin Impact? I bet a lot of you said someone like Arlecchino, Hu Tao, maybe even Nuvolet if you're based enough. But Genshin Impact has a bit of a problem when it comes to releasing playable characters in this day and age. And according to a lot of people, that problem is there's just not enough male 5 stars getting released lately. King Aaron Games here made a video called Genshin's Male Character Issue. And I'm excited to delve into this because I think a lot of people think male characters just don't really sell well. But if we take a look at Honkai Star Rail, Finon has kind of proved that entirely incorrect. We haven't got the gacha revenue reports, however accurate they might be right now. But the hype this character's generated is absolutely through the roof. Curious to see their takes on this, and I'll give my own as we go through this video, so let's take a look.
Kenich is a powerhouse single-target Dendro DPS who shines with burning and burgeon reactions. Released on September 17th, 2024, he's still the most recent unit of his kind, nearly
That's
8
crazy,
months
dude.
later.
8 months without a 5-star male character is kind of wild to me.
Star and male. Since then, every new male character has been a 4-star with noticeable flaws, continuing a frustrating trend of undervaluing male characters. This isn't new. Male units have consistently lagged behind their female counterparts in multiple ways.
I mean, I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that obviously a lot of the gacha player base does just prefer female characters, which I think is absolutely fine, by the way. I myself, even in games like WooWar, are kind of more drawn to the female characters, but that's also because the stories are really well fleshed out, whereas some of the male characters for 5 stars in games like WooWar, for example, like Jian and Kalcharo and stuff, barely show up in the story at all at this point. Jian definitely did, but story-wise, I don't even want to talk about it. I guess 1.x was kind of just to begin with. In Genshin, I feel like a lot of the characters really do have well fleshed out stories. The Natlan cast was a bit different because they tried to go a different path with the story quests and stuff, making them into tribal quests, and that was hit or miss for a lot of people. I myself thought Kenich's was one of the better tribal quests, to be honest, but yeah, I don't know.
The latest batch of male 4-stars only deepens the divide, as they end up as weaker versions of existing female characters. So the question remains, why are male characters still being sidelined, and what's driving this ongoing imbalance?
Let's take a look.
Let's go back and take a look at Kenich. While his kit has unique elements, he's essentially a less valuable version of Emily. Both are single-target Dendro DPS.
Interesting. So I don't have Emily, so I didn't actually know this. The thing is for me, bro, Kenich, I just don't really enjoy his playstyle. I think it's interesting and a good thing that HoYoverse are trying to do new things and mix things up in characters' kits. But something about Kenich's playstyle just doesn't vibe well with me. Emily's, I feel like I've tried in like the trial and stuff, and she was fine. She's just like a quick swap mainly, right?
Units reliant on burning, and while Kenich also directly benefits from burgeon, those reactions often overlap, meaning Emily works just as well in most of the same teams, especially if Jingshou or Yulan aren't involved. The core difference, Kenich is forced on-field, while Emily is playable off-field, but she can also act as an on-field DPS when paired with Bennett, where her damage...
Now, here's a thing with on versus off-field. I don't really care if a character is on or off-field. However, I feel like the utilization of off-field characters just fits way more teams than on-field. Because, like, if you have a greedy on-field DPS, you really don't want to pair them up with another greedy on-field DPS, right? But you can pair Emily up with any on-field DPS, and she's gonna be pretty good if you're using her for what she's intended for.
Damage is still competitive, since her damage is spread out over a duration rather than in large bursts. She ends up having a more impactful damage when not used in boss fights. She also produces burning self-damage, which can prove to be a huge benefit to melee units. Kenich does offer some exploration utility with his movement.
I actually didn't know about the reduced self-damage. That's a really good point. Again, I don't have Emily, so I've never really looked into it. That's huge, actually.
When it comes to combat...
Bro, people hated Emily when she first came out as well, I remember. I don't know if it was because of just the design or what, but people hated this character.
Emily completely outclasses him. She's flexible, team-friendly, and safer to use, while being about just as good as Kenich when on-field. While Kenich, like many male characters before him, is hampered by his forced on-field time and absence of team utility. Looking at the current roster, most male characters are on-field DPS units. That might not seem like a problem until you consider how little value main DPS units hold in Genshin's team-based design.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That is exactly what I'm talking about. I actually did not know that most of the male characters were on-field DPS units, but I guess it makes sense that Kazu is one of the more popular male characters, not just because of story, but also gameplay at that point,
Teams consist of 1 on-field unit and 3 off-field ones, since multiple on-field DPS can't operate simultaneously. For endgame content like Spiral Abyss, you only need 2 strong on-field units. Even in Imaginarium Theater, where
it's so funny, that's basically just my team.
You would want 4 in total, the mode always gives you at least 1, so you never need more than 3. Meanwhile, off-field units are in constant demand. You need 6 for Abyss, and at least 9 for Imaginarium Theater and Stygian Onslaught.
Stygian Onslaught's definitely a bit more demanding. expanding now as well.
3 times more than you'll ever need main DPS units, making all-field characters far more valuable overall. The kicker, 64% of male characters are main DPS. So once you have your 2 or 3, most of the male roster
I wonder how many of the female characters are just pure on-field greedy DPS.
instantly loses relevance. A design
Compared to the
trend that
64%.
heavily diminishes their long-term value. The remaining third of male characters aren't doing much better. Not only are they rare, but they also struggle to compete with their female counterparts, both in power and relevance. There are only 13 male off-field units, and over half were released during version 1.
Wow, that's kind of crazy, dude. I think Auroran, by the way, is one of the more fun 4-stars released in recent times.
Then, we've gotten just 2 per region, except Fontaine, which gave us none. When it comes to 5-star male supports, only 5 exist, and 4 of them are from version 1. The only 5-star male support since then is Baiju, who notably was also revealed back in version 1. It's almost like HoYo just stopped designing them altogether.
Maybe they just forgot, bro. Give them some credit. I'm kidding.
Since then, this matters because most male supports are either 4-star and underpowered, or simply outdated, making them hard to justify in today's meta. Even with vertical investment, their old, outdated constellations pale in comparison to the disgusting monstrosities we get today. The few standouts, like
even characters like Venti and stuff got, I don't want to really say power creep, but Kazuha basically does what Venti does, but adds more in terms of utility to the whole team, right?
5-year-old gods among men, Kazuha and Bennett, are the exceptions, not the rule, as most are straight up weak or only competitive under niche circumstances. Since version 2, we haven't seen a single meta-defining off-field male support. Meanwhile, the female roster has exploded with powerhouses like Yelan, Kuki, Nahida, Fiorina, Chevreuse, Xianyun, Shalonen, Mawika, Silali, Lanya.
Yeah, even Mawika could be used as a goated off-field DPS. It's kind of crazy.
Yansan and Escoffier. While females get to treat themselves to the meta because of their off-field status, there has been almost 0 of these types of units for males in general. No one talks about the fact that from patch 3.6 to 5.2, spanning 13.5 patches, not one off-field male was released.
That's crazy. That many patches, bro, that's like 2 years, right?
Not one off-field male was released. For comparison, people widely discussed Shenhe's 16-patch rerun drought that occurred during the same exact period. But where is that same energy for male supports? Sure, there was a brief female support.
I think the big thing here is a lot of people just also don't care that much if it's a male or female character. That's why I think the energy was different. People are undoubtedly going to be kind of pissed when there's a character that is already out that goes that long without a rerun, because they know what that character does and they know what they can get.
Support drought between Yao Yao in 3.4 and Lynette in 4.0, but it lasted only 5 patches. After that, female supports have dropped almost every patch. To pour even more salt into the wound, the majority of these supports were meta-defining too. This massive gap in off-field male supports,
bro, I remember Jalonen coming out. That was certainly a time.
Makes it nearly impossible to build a top-tier team of only male characters. Instead, metacomps are now dominated by female units, not because of favoritism in usage, but because their designs simply make them stronger and more flexible. The issue is...
I can definitely see that. I think I agree with it, but for me personally, I just don't care that much. I understand the people that do. I see this criticism a lot with multiple gacha games, how it's like female character after female character. And bro, if I upload like a reaction to a gacha game, the amount of comments that I get where it's like, yeah, I don't want to play another harem simulator. Like, I don't want just female characters. Where's the male characters? Where's the male representation in these games? A lot of people do care a lot about that.
So bad that trying to play a male unit affected by power creep means relying on 2 or more strong female supports just to make them usable. Male characters in Genshin are overwhelmingly niche, far more than average, whether it's giving them a single gimmick like Chongyun's triple melt burst, or...
Bro, I think Chongyun is one of the more fun units to play though for 4 stars. I'm keeping it a buck here.
Hard limiting them through kit restrictions like Kenich relying on burning. HoYoverse often boxes them into rigid, narrow...
To be fair though, female characters also get boxed into relatively limited team comps as well, even very good ones. I mean, just look at Nilu, look at Skirk. There's a lot of characters, I feel like. Maybe not as many, don't get me wrong.
About 53% of male characters are locked into a niche that they can't break out of. For female characters, that number drops to 41%, with...
Yeah, so it's pretty close, but still a noticeable difference.
Most being much more flexible or versatile. While niche units can be meta under the right conditions, their overall value takes a hit, especially in modern endgame content. The Spiral Abyss now features bosses that limit certain reactions or characters.
Yeah, this is the same with Stygian Onslaught as well now.
Making rigid team building a major liability. Units that only work in specific comps end up getting benched fast, and male characters suffer from this far more often. Sure, a niche unit can still dominate if they have enough power to make their niche worthwhile. But that's not the case for most male characters. They're not just niche, they're generally weaker than their female counterparts, right?
I think for the most part, that's probably pretty true.
Now, only 3 male characters are truly meta: Kenich, Neuvillette, and Kazuha. Meanwhile, 7 top-tier units are female, thanks to their insane damage, utility, and/or team amplification. And males, they just aren't designed to compete. They're just built weaker, plain and simple. Even setting aside top-tier picks, male characters still lag behind in raw power. Just look at the most recent 4-star releases. On the female side, we've got Yansan and Lanyan, both
Yansan's fucking crazy, by the way. I did not realize just how like meta she was.
Incredibly powerful. Yansan acts as a pseudo healer and a major DPS amplifier, offering a huge flat attack buff, 30% attack at C2, 25% damage bonus at C6, and a 40% team-wide damage bonus with Cinder City. Lanyan brings massive value too. She's a strong shielder that shreds enemy resistances by 40% with Viridescent Fenrir, gives 60 elemental mastery at C4, and boosts the next unit's attack by 48% with Thrilling Tales. Meanwhile,
I didn't realize how good she was either, to be fair. I've never used her, not even once.
Now, the latest male 4-stars, Dahlia and Aoife, are clearly weaker. Take Aoife for example.
But Aoife's got Kakuku, so he kind of just wins everything at that point.
He shares the same element, weapon, and role as Lanyan, yet falls short in almost every way. He offers 40% resistance shred via Viridescent, 20% damage bonus with Hakushin Ring, and a boost to the electrocharged reaction. He could also pivot into a support role for Anemo DPS with Thrilling Tales and Cinder City, but he has many problems.
Yo, this person's done their research, by the way. Props, holy, with all the different like artifact sets and weapons and stuff.
Kit-based buff is locked to electrocharged. His healing,
a lot of points rooted in fact here, it seems,
is outright weak, and both his defensive and offensive utility require him to stay on field. Compared to Lanyan's flexibility and raw support value, Aoife is just outclassed, as she can support an electrocharged team using the same setup, though it will be slightly worse, while also being functional in significantly more team setups. Dahlia also falls flat, especially when
Dahlia, I feel like, really does fall flat, and I'm kind of sad, bro. I think Dahlia is such a fun character in the story, and I just feel bad for Daily Dahlia. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
compared to Yansan.
But I'm pretty sure Daily Dahlia really likes Dahlia, so who really cares, right? If people enjoy the character, then it is what it is.
He offers a decent shield, but beyond that, his only utility is a niche attack speed buff and a 20% attack buff from Noblesse Oblige. That's it. No meaningful damage, no team-wide impact, nothing that makes him stand out. Next to Yansan's loaded kit, Dahlia feels like a wet sock. Males are simply just not as strong as females are because HoYo designs them that way. Females are about 3% more likely to be a 5-star, which has become a huge deal since Fontaine dropped, as 5-stars now have a higher power budget on average than 4-stars. Females are 22%.
I feel like 5-stars have always had more power budget than 4-stars, right? Maybe that's crazy. Again, this video seems rooted in a lot of facts. I'm just talking out of my ass here, but I feel like that's kind of the point of 4 and 5 stars.
More likely to be meta, the only males left being the plug-and-play Neuvillette, Kazuha, who is hanging on by a thread, and Bennett, the Mistake. Females are about
the Mistake? Oh my goodness, bro.
24% more likely to be generalists, meaning they fit in multiple team comps and see more play. And crucially, females are 54% more likely to be usable off-field.
That's crazy. We definitely do need more cool off-field male 5-stars. That would be awesome to have.
Which is a role that is 3 times more valuable than on-field only. When considering these factors, females tend to be, drum roll please,
better?
About 225% more valuable than male characters.
That's a crazy fucking statistic. Holy shit. Is that a problem? I mean...
While the initial numbers might not have seemed huge at first glance, they do add up, and the message ends up becoming clear. Female characters aren't just better, they're significantly more powerful and valuable across the board. So why are female characters pushed harder, made better in almost every...
This is the important part. I feel like this, the part down here literally says men don't sell, question mark. We'll see. We'll see what he has to say about this.
Way and released more often. The common explanation thrown out there is men don't sell, but there's no solid evidence for that. Looking at Genshin Labs banner sales data, which is imperfect, but it's the best we have outside of Sensor Tower's revenue reports that are not banner based, it's clear that both male and female banners appear in the top and bottom sales list. Yes, some male banners rank low, but many also do well.
Okay, however, I do have to put this out there. The highlighted one at the second place there, which is Raiden Shogun and Ayato. Are we going to pretend like Ayato was the main driving factor for that banner being so high? Because I don't know, bro. Yolan and Zhao as well. I can definitely see it being the female characters driving those banner sales as well. That is not to say that men don't sell, by the way. Again, I mentioned Finon. I reckon Finon's probably going to break HSR's banner sale records.
Same exact trend. These sales don't neatly follow this sort of line. Instead, the numbers seem to follow a different trajectory. They are influenced mostly on character power level, popularity, and constellation value. At the time of the top 2 highest grossing banners, each character was very popular, they worked all the time, and they had valuable constellations that turned them into powerhouses when properly invested into. The lowest grossing banners are the exact opposite. These units are generally on the weaker side of power, while also being very niche. They are not as popular, though Xiao and Yai do tend to be generally well-liked, and their
I'm still so surprised Kokomi is like all the way down here, bro. Kokomi was such a good unit back then.
Quite low, as each are pretty C6 robust. This trend fits the rest of the top and bottom 10 too, as characters like Ayaka and Nahida are very popular, powerful, they worked in many places at the time of their banners, and they have strong constellations.
I don't know about Ayaka's constellations. Nahida's are absolutely goated, but I've seen C6 Ayakas, and I know that they just do an absolute boatload of damage, so I definitely agree that they're probably very, very good cons.
While Tartaglia, Klee, and Kokomi are the opposite. This explains why the men don't sell narrative pops up. It's less common for HoYoverse to make male characters, which therefore gives them lower outdated constellation value, to make these characters powerful and generalists, and to make them supports, which would...
I think if you just make a good character, most people, maybe not most, a lot of people are not going to care if it's a male or female character. If they're incredibly strong and incredibly awesome in the story, I think that's what most people are going to care about, right? Am I crazy? Maybe.
Increase their overall value. This is why male characters appear to sell less, even though they're actually just as popular. Across multiple popularity polls, yes, of varying credibility, but still telling, male characters consistently rank alongside females, often taking up half of the top 10 and sometimes even landing the #1 spot. It's not just a Genshin.
Hey. I eat my words from before. This is a character popularity survey from like people responding with their favorite characters, not which character they pulled on banners, for example, I guess, right?
Picking up half of the top 10 and sometimes even landing the #1 spot. It's not just a Genshin phenomenon either. A recent Honkai Star Rail poll showed 6 out of the top 10 most liked characters were male, including...
Yeah, honestly, the writing for the Honkai Star Rail male characters is absolutely goated, though, and a lot of people really, really, really like these characters, dude.
Just look at Love in Deep Space, a gacha game featuring only male characters.
I've heard Love in Deep Space banners kind of make you feel like you kind of have to pull for the characters, though. So again, I can't speak on this without knowing the gacha system and how much players feel like they are required to pull the characters versus pulling the character because they like them.
Despite its focus on only men, it's been a massive hit. According to Sensor Tower, it's been one of the top 3 highest grossing gacha games.
And I deadass thought this was just because it was a lot of like people pulling for male characters because they love that, and it deadass could be, but I did see a lot of comments on a video that I watched the other day saying the reason Love in Deep Space is so high at the top is because people feel like the need to pull the characters, not because of the gender or because of the character, but because of something to do with the end game. Let me know in the comments if you play Love in Deep Space, what the gacha system's like, and if you kind of feel the need to pull characters or you just pull them because they're cool.
2024. So yes, men do sell, and they can sell incredibly well. The issue isn't the audience. The issue is that HoYoverse rarely puts the same effort into male character design, male support roles, or male promotion. The market exists, so if male characters are popular and the only reason they underperform is because HoYoverse designs them that way, then why not just make male characters good? Unless there's some hidden internal factor we don't know about, the answer is simple. HoYoverse just chooses not to. There's no clear statistical or commercial reason.
Which, by the way, I think it's also fine for them to choose not to. Same with any game. If games want to just focus on a certain like type of character, whether it's gender, whether it's ability level, whether it's whatever, that's the game's prerogative. If you don't want to play it because of that, that's absolutely fine as well. But it's also fine to like want more, want different. I think that is also very good to do.
Male characters should be weaker or less frequent. If the numbers don't justify it, then it comes down to creative bias or internal priorities. This kind of neglect alienates a lot.
I didn't think this topic would be this like difficult to talk about with so much nuance to it. I deadass thought it was just like, yeah, men don't sell, and oh wait, but they can. But no, there is a lot of intricacies to this that this guy's like brought out and put on the table, and it's making me think as I go through this video that yes, some of my previous thoughts might have just been incorrect assumptions and stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of glad I watched this. This has opened my eyes to a lot of the comparisons, especially between men selling in other video games and reasons why.
Large portion of the community, players who
I've already changed like 3 opinions throughout this whole video.
Are potentially ready to spend. We've already seen this market in action. Love and Deep Space proves it. When male characters are given care, quality, and focus, and a little bit of fan service, they sell. And they
Little bit of okay, bro. Little bit of fans of it, bro. I saw a trailer once where they were literally in chains in a cage and like it was crazy.
sell
It was
big.
crazy.
Ignoring what is essentially an untapped market is more than just a missed opportunity. It's downright foolish, especially since they were doing it before. Right now, Genshin is losing players, and while there are many reasons for this, like half-baked quality of life updates, poor story.
I want to see figures for this. Are they losing players? Because last time I checked, they weren't. They were actually steadily increasing, especially since the paralogism quest. I think since Natlan, it has definitely dropped overall, but I think a large majority of that reasoning is because people just didn't really like Natlan as much as previous nations, which is fair.
Genshin has practically abandoned part of its own audience. The near total absence of strong or even present male characters has driven away a significant chunk of the player base. Many of these fans have migrated to Honkai Star Rail despite its flaws, or to Love and Deep Space, simply because those games actually cater to them, something Genshin also used to do. Alienating a once engaged fan base is never smart, as it cuts off a
I guess Tartaglia was strong when it first released, right?
reliable revenue stream. Less revenue leads to fewer resources, and fewer resources means lower quality characters, storytelling, and content. It's a lose-lose
That's fair.
cycle, and Genshin is already showing the signs. Natlan's release has made one thing obvious. HoYoverse is scrambling for revenue. The greedy Mawiga and Seat Lolly debut double banner ramped up
Oh god, PTSD, bro. Oh no. My biggest mistake in gacha history, calling out this banner then pulling on it.
fan service, turning the newest Archon into a bundle of marketable traits, increased power creep of 5 stars on their constellations, the Spiral Abyss
I mean, okay, that was against a freaking local legend. You could do that damage with a lot of characters. Well, maybe not a lot of characters, but yeah, come on now.
heavily favoring current
In fact, that might be a lie. The 20 million damage, I wonder how many characters could actually hit that. I might be talking out of my ass.
banners, making older comps feel unviable, characters becoming more restrictive, often requiring new units just to function. Every move
Does Skirk require Escoffier just to function? I don't think so, right? As long as you put her in a team with Cryo and Hydro, she still functions pretty well, but Escoffier definitely makes her feel infinitely better. Same with Farina.
screams desperation, and the pitiful part is none of it is working. Raiden's 4th rerun and Yoimiya's 5th in January 2024 sold nearly exactly the same as January 2025's stacked debut banner featuring Malwika the Archon and Citlali. That month also had the benefit of having 2/3 of Chlorant and Arlecchino's dual rerun banner revenue, while 2024 January included the first day of Xianyun's debut alongside Nahida's rerun and the final 9 days of Navia's debut alongside Ayaka's rerun, which both make up to about 10% of each respective banner's total
That's crazy. Jesus, I had no idea about that.
revenue. That's a yikes. The husbando situation is abysmal. Fans who love male characters haven't been catered to in over 8 months, and when they do get itty bitty crumbs, those crumbs have mold. This steady neglect has pushed players away, some temporarily, and many permanently, from a game they once adored. Natlan's failure isn't solely due to this, but the complete mishandling of male characters has absolutely contributed to the worst state Genshin has ever seen.
Yeah, I think it contributing is 100% true. I just don't know the level that it would contribute to people like literally stopping playing the game anymore compared to something like the storytelling being not as good and the story itself being not as good for a lot of people.
Especially for
I fucking loved it, but
frustrating because there's a solution sitting right in front of us.
Capitano?
But now I want to hear your thoughts.
He'll become playable, don't worry.
What do you think of the male situation in Genshin? Do you think it's as bad as I mentioned? Do you consider yourself a husbando enjoyer? Are you not? Do you even care about this situation at all? Tell me what you think in the comments below.
Here's the thing, it's like for me, bro, I do care slightly. I get the more I watch that video, the more my opinions change. So let me lay out my opinions to you guys like now as we're sitting after we've been through the video, right? I feel like for me, men do sell if you write them well enough and make them strong enough. Overall, I personally couldn't really care less if we get like that many insane male characters or female characters. I think as long as I get a well-written character, I'm perfectly fine. I love a lot of the characters in all of the games that I play, and honestly, a lot of the time, I don't really look to if they're male or female and be like, oh my god, I can't believe we haven't had a male 5-star in this long. It's when other people bring it up and I'm like, wow, It's been that long? Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Subscribe to the channel. And just to let y'all know, we have a 40.8% female split and a 56.9% male split in the audience, with 2.3% user specified. So we're kind of almost at the 50-50 mark of the 5 stars here. Appreciate y'all for watching. Subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later.